The New York Times. Google uncovers Russian-backed ads for the 2016 elections. The Independent states, no deal for Brexit for the UK. DW, a fixed number for migrants in Germany. Al Jazeera speaks up on Muslim feminism. Euronews, we will not recognize an independent Catalonia. El Universal, a sunset provision and limits to the textile industry, a NAFTA's update. Join me to take a closer look to what's going on across the globe. I am Elisa Carballo and this is World Today. We have all the information coming right ahead. The New York Times reported Google uncovering evidence of Russian operatives spending thousands of dollars on advertising which aimed on spreading fake news and propaganda on YouTube, Gmail, and Google's search engines, therefore presumably interfering with the 2016 US election. The ads on Google do not seem from the same group that targeted users on Facebook. The company hadn't found any evidence of malicious ad campaigns in the past, neither evidence that these ads are directly tied with the Russian government. As a matter of fact, the ads were much broad and were aimed at English language queries on any users in the United States, for example. We are taking a deeper look to investigate attempts to abuse our systems, working with researchers and other companies, and will provide assistance to ongoing inquiries, Andrea Faville said, a Google spokeswoman. Google has been called to testify at a Senate Intelligence Committee hearing on November the 1st. However, it has so far escaped the intense scrutiny confronting Facebook. The Independent outlined the UK Prime Minister Theresa May and her intentions on leaving the European Union with no deal at all. The British leader published white papers on trade and customs, which are all building up the legislation, thus allowing the UK to operate as an independent trading nation and create an innovative customs trade system to achieve a great tariff and barrier-free trade. As the UK prepares to leave the European Union, May indicates that she is only preparing for any eventuality to avoid border meltdown for business and travelers. All of these include plans for huge inland lorry parks to cope with the lengthy new custom checks that will be needed to avoid ports becoming traffic blocked. This decision has triggered opinions, some in favor and some against. The Conservatives respect the decision and are somehow trying to see the uprise, a more independent UK trade policy. Liberals, on the other hand, are showing a more reluctant attitude to the decision. However, still over 1 year is left before Brexit Day on 2019. DW announces earlier on this week that Angela Merkel agrees on migrant deal accepting a fixed number. No more than 200,000 refugees, asylum seekers and migrants per year in Germany. This means that now the German leader Merkel will be able to open formal coalition negotiations which may start during the upcoming weeks. Some indicate that this compromise could be the beginning of a migration law, something that could get the support of the Greens and Free Democrats, the FDP, as Merkel heads into coalition-building talks with both parties. The CDU and the CSU are expected to propose protecting the European Union's external borders, sending back migrants to their home countries if they do not qualify for asylum, and working with transit and source countries of migrants. That is now the position that the CDU-CSU is taking, but it's not the position of a future government, stated Cem Özdemir. He added to still feel quite unclear what the Conservatives actually want. Al Jazeera is speaking up about women's rights in the Middle East and Muslim feminism, a couple of phenomena that still have a long way to run and are in the midst of challenging times. Even though great advances have been made which empower Muslim women all across the Middle East, such as the Saudi Arabia's recent driving allowance, Islamic holy texts are still allowing the kingdom and clerics to support the teachings of Muslim feminists who are pushing precisely for that. However, Scholars have used text analysis of Muslim religious sources to argue that the Holy Quran enshrines gender equality as a central tenet of faith. However, the struggle continues as the kingdom claims that the provenance of defining true Islam for the rest of the Muslim world. We should not confuse or ignore Saudi intransigence toward Muslim feminism and the project recognizing gender equality. While driving is off the list of forbidden acts for females, everything else still remains. The intrigues of strategic maneuvering should not detract from the truth that the kingdom's orientation toward the position of women within Islam is diametrically opposed to those who are pushing for gender egalitarian understanding of Islam. Furthermore, Saudi clerics and leaders are still insisting that women can never lead, that they must beg guardians for permission to travel, to open a bank account, to enroll into university. They must be subservient to their husbands, fathers, and even to their sons. They deny any possibility of equality between the sexes, discarding the precept as a foreign imposition. However, there's still hope. Hope for women's right to prevail, for negotiations among parties, and constitutional right for females to enjoy the same benefits as male. The key is time, patience, and intelligence. Euronews. Leaders of the European Union are concerned about the Catalonia issue at hand. The French government already stated not to recognize an independent Catalonia, and it would mean direct expulsion from the economic bloc. If independence was to be declared, the first consequence would be that Catalonia would have to leave the European Union, stated France's European Affairs Minister Nathalie Loiseau. UK's Prime Minister commented that the Spanish government has the right to uphold the Spanish constitution, thus all parties to operate under the same rule of law. On the other hand, Scotland's First Minister Nicola Sturgeon stated in a more conciliatory stance, "It's not for Scotland to decide whether Catalonia becomes independent or not. I think it must be for the people of Catalonia to decide that. Spain says last Sunday referendum was illegal." I respect the position. However, if that is the case, surely the discussion now must be on how the people of Catalonia legally and legitimately express a view about the future. Round 4 of negotiations of the North American Free Trade Agreement, the NAFTA, continue on to resolve the future of the agreement for Mexico, the US, and Canada. One of the latest proposals the US has suggested during round 3 was to eliminate that allow Mexico's textile industry to use materials not manufactured within the region. However, the Mexican government officially presented their rejection of this petition during the latest negotiations. Furthermore, one of the most controversial proposals is an official 5-year sunset provision for NAFTA, meaning the agreement will end between all parties on a fixed date in 5 years' time, unless they all convene to renew it. The agreement would end, except for the partners expressing their interest in continuing, stated an official who has asked to remain anonymous. A lot is still left in store on the agreement. The talks will continue past late October, and ever since the topics such as the energy and dispute resolution are still needed to be discussed. Sadly, we've come to the end of the show of World Today. Follow us on social networks on Facebook, Twitter, and of course on YouTube. Our website is www.mexiconewsnetworks.com. We will provide you with all the information you need to know today. Thank you so much for joining us. You are watching Mexico News Network's World Today, an objective scope across the globe. Until next time.